Hey there, everyone. It's Aaron with the Mind Half Full. I hope you enjoyed the first episode. This episode's going to be a bit more in depth, kind of my story. Before I jump into that, I just want to kind of touch on something that happened last weekend. There was a really bad storm and whatnot that went through North Dakota, and unfortunately, 3 people did lose their lives because of it. But there is a lot of damage across the state. That was on Friday, June 20th. So, big part of the state was affected. So, just kind of keep everybody that was affected in your thoughts and prayers, because it was statewide from the Montana border basically all the way across into the Minnesota border. So, just keep those that are affected, in your thoughts and prayers, because some people lost everything, and, in a couple of cases, family members were lost. Into today's video. So this is my story. It's not going to be a long drawn out thing. I'm just going to give you kind of a quick rundown in 30 minutes or less. 2022, I think I covered this a little bit in the last video, but we worked together. We met at work, needed help with a task. She helped me. Before that, we had never interacted. We'd seen each other in passing, but never really talked or anything. Pick up from where I left off with that. I believe I mentioned that she'd come out to a birthday party thing for me, and we'd spent the whole night talking. So going forward from that, things flowed very, very easily. One or the other of us, I don't remember who, added the other one on Facebook, and we started talking, and then we started hanging out, going out on dates. And then I think within a month of officially meeting, we were officially dating. It flowed very easily. She was very easy to talk to, and then she told me vice versa. I was very easy to talk to, and we just wanted to spend all of our time together. She got me out of some of my comfort zones. I got her out of some of her comfort zones. We were really building together, kind of break up things into 6-month blocks. So month 1 to 6, things were really, really great. Spending a lot of time together, going on a lot of great dates, making good memories. Met her family, she met my family. Ironically, we were looking to get married because, I was taking steps for proposal and all that. And the entire time, our parents never met, which, some of it's kind of odd, but that's neither here nor there. We moved in together fairly quick. I think it was like 2 or 3 months into dating, she moved in with me, and we started building a life together in our home and whatnot. And we took some trips, went to 3 different states together on trips, and just having a lot of good fun, a lot of good times. And then we were also still learning about ourselves as people, because I was new into management. So, I'm learning to be a manager in a corporate company that we both work at. So, she's just kind of regular employee, but then, I'm like upper management and whatnot. So learning how to balance, a new relationship with a new career path and all that. It was some good times for sure. I won't say everything was bad. That was a good time. There was very little conflict in that first 6 months. I think we had a couple of those little lovey-dovey disagreements over, a restaurant or a movie or something along those lines, but nothing major. And then, we get into the 6 to 12 month period, and that's when we start having legitimate conflicts, and things are starting to, go from being great to, just okay, getting through the day-to-day. We've kind of settled into day-to-day life. As time went on, it got harder. She had her things, I had my things. We're bringing those things together and whatnot. But the 6 to 12 month mark is really where we really kind of started conflicting about things, to the point where she would pack up some stuff and then go back to her parents' house until she felt like I had learned my lesson. Probably not the best way to conduct disagreements in a relationship, but that's what happened. Not going to dog on her for that, because that's her default setting. That's what she knows how to do. That's who she is. Me, I'm very much, I'll stand there and fight toe to toe, but not everyone's like that. So, we're getting into the conflict part of a relationship, kind of honeymoon period is ending for me at least. I think she wanted to fight to stay in that because she didn't know how to deal with conflict in a healthy way. One of the biggest things that we repeatedly fought about was family time. She was very into her family. I had my family with a new addition to the family. Obviously we both want to go see our family and we both want the other person there, but we couldn't compromise on how to do it. I laid out what I felt and what friends felt were a very fair compromise on the situation. First one being first and third weekend or your family, second and fourth weekend or my family, or vice versa. However, just that way each family gets 2 weekends a month of our attention and our presence. The next one was Friday be our day for us to do our things, because work week just ended. That's our time for our dates and whatnot, our alone time. Saturday be my family's, and then because church and whatnot on Sunday, her family would be the Sunday focus. And I delivered all 3 of those, because short of just laying down, giving her what she wanted, it just kept going round and round and round and arguments about it. But to each one of these, she basically said, no, I'm not going to draw that boundary with my family. I want to be able to go to my family basically whenever I want. That was the biggest conflict we had throughout the whole relationship. And that conflict kind of sprung up in that, I'd say, 7 to 8 month mark. And then it moved on to just little things, such as, one of her things was trash is a man's job. A woman should never touch trash. That's not how things were in my household. It was when the trash needed to be changed, someone took it out. Didn't matter who it was. Didn't matter if you're male or female. It got taken out. And even her mom had told me that a woman should never touch a bag of trash. That's a man's job, which I didn't particularly agree with that, just because, I don't buy into the gender roles that this is your job, this is my job. We're a team working together to keep a house going. So it's whoever notices that it needs to be taken out is the one that takes it out. Those types of conflicts. And then, again, family became a conflict as well. She would be with her family. I wanted her to spend some time with my family, but I would get blown off because she was more focused on her family. And, I'm not saying that I didn't like her family at all. I absolutely adored them. Even when they annoyed me, good-naturedly annoyed me, still loved them, still, if they would call me, I would probably pick up and talk to them. You can't join 2 lives together without dealing with the family and the friends and whatnot. I willingly accepted them, and, I enjoyed my times with them, had a lot of great conversations with her dad, had some good conversations with her mom, and then some of the siblings as well. We had conversations too. So, that's like the first year almost, but then towards the back end, towards the end of the relationship, it was just kind of, she was at the point of, we were in a situationship rather than a relationship. Like, she wanted to do what she wanted when she wanted, and I was just kind of there, and it just, every little thing turned into a fight. She was allowing her friends to have way more input into our relationship than they should have. That's something I am going to say for anybody and everybody. Keep your friends and your family out of your relationship as much as possible, and not in like a mean way. I'm not saying they can't know what's going on, but don't listen to them over your partner 95% of the time, because that there is going to create more conflict. And that was something that we dealt with as well. Prime example was, our place was a all-electric unit, no gas lines whatsoever. The smoke detector's battery was going out, and she didn't know what it was. Talked to her dad, and her dad thought it was a carbon monoxide alarm. And he was getting ready to come over there with a meter and stuff over in our house. I'm 28 at the time, 27, 28 at the time. And, I kind of took offense to it. I was like, you can trust your daughter to live with me and, agree to let me marry her, but then you can't trust me to know about a carbon monoxide leak or not. That caused an issue between her and I, and then she ended up telling her dad, and her dad ended up kind of calling me up. He's like, look here, she's on my time until the day you put that ring on your finger, so stay in your lane, which, I gotta respect that. It didn't, however, change how I felt that I was being disregarded because she didn't trust what I was saying, and she had to involve other people. I mean, I would tell her my opinion, and she would call 6 to 10 other people, give them the same story. They would give almost the exact same answer or advice that I was, and instead of her, just accepting what I had said as her partner, she had to go run through all these people, and then she decided to basically act on the thing that I had said in the first place because all these other people had given their opinion. Don't disregard your partner and involve everyone else. Your partner is the number one on that list. Not saying don't solicit other people's opinions, but don't disregard your partners. It's just rude. It's disrespectful. Any way you slice it. Short of them being physically and mentally abusive, keep people out of your relationships. It is you and that person, not you, that person, and everyone in your circle in between. It doesn't work like that. And then we kind of, just continued fighting to the point to where one day after a fight, she said she was going to leave, and, it to me, looking back now, it was what she was wanting. It just kind of gave her a good enough excuse to justify it. Looking back now, there is things that I could have done differently in the relationship, and things that she could have done differently in the relationship. And, I'm not going to assign blame more so to one than the other, because obviously it took both of us to get to the point that we were at. But, just one thing that I really want to point out and I really want to stress is it does not matter who is right, who is wrong. You come together and then you're right or wrong together. Don't beat someone up over something that they've already apologized for. That was something that she did to me quite a lot. One thing was one night on our way back from a date night, we both had the night off. A friend of mine who was working at the company with us asked if I could stop and get her a cup of coffee because she woke up late. So I agreed, took the coffee, gave it to her, talked for like 10-15 minutes, and then about a week or two goes by, and then my ex sits me down and is like, I really was not okay with that. And then she proceeds to tell me that I interrupted date night to take my friend a cup of coffee. It was more important to me to take my friend a cup of coffee than it was to continue on with our date night, which I do want to point out. Our date night was pretty much done for the night. We didn't have anything else planned, so, I didn't think it a big deal, and she did not make a big deal of it at that time. But, fast forward into because that was probably around the 3 or 4 month mark when that happened. Fast forward all the way to the time in which we broke up. I think she pulled that out and just made me feel like utter crap probably 4 or 5 times. One time that I do remember what that was, we had just gotten to my parents' I was sitting there talking with my mom, and, I never told her she couldn't ever take my car. I'd let her take my car whenever she wanted, essentially. Her and my sister wanted Starbucks, which was literally right down the road, not even 2 minutes. I had said, why don't you take my car and go with my sister, because I'm having a conversation with my mom. And then they ended up going, but she was angry with me for it, and then she threw that up that, well, you were willing to stop and get so-and-so coffee, but you're not willing to go get me a coffee, and just really made me feel very crappy about it. Fast forward a few months, it's our date night. She had picked the dinner, I had picked the activity, and it was right when that show Dahmer came out, and it was real big. I wanted to watch an episode of that with her. Got home, got settled in, hadn't even been watching it 10 minutes, and her mom calls. Her mom and her dad were downtown in the city that we lived in at a social work function for her mom's work, and incidentally, it was at the bar that we had like our first date or meeting out for my birthday, and she begged me to go, and which I agreed, because I wanted to make her happy. But looking back now, I allowed a double standard there. She got so mad at me for interrupting our date night to take a friend a coffee, take a 20-25 minute total detour, and then she turns around and then interrupts our date night for about 4 hours for her to go drink with her mom, while her dad and I are literally just standing there watching our significant others have fun, and we're standing there not drinking, just watching, because it was getting a little bit rowdy and whatnot. So it's, the double standards thing, which I'll cover in another video, just kind of really irritates me, just because I've lived through a lot of it. I don't appreciate the rules for thee, but not for me. It's a two-way street. It goes both ways. It applies to both people. Keep that in mind. Like I said, I'll cover that in another video. Now we're to the breakup. We had a fight that morning, and it just wasn't going anywhere. She ended up walking away into the bedroom for a good 5-10 minutes, and she comes back out, and I'm asking her questions like, where are we at? Like, where do we go from this? Like, can we fix this? And she is not answering me at all. She is just staring at the floor, not saying anything. And then finally I ask her, I'm like, so does this mean you're done, or like what? Like, you got to give me some. You can't just let me sit here and think things are okay, because she would let me think things are okay, and they would not be. She sat there for a couple minutes, and she's like, I think I'm done. I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore. And I broke down, begging and crying and pleading with her. And I will remember this until the day I die, because this cut me all the way to my soul. No person has ever said such a cruel thing to me in my life. But I told her, her name, don't dwell on this rough patch we've had. Think about all the good we've had in our relationship, and think about this little bit of bad. And the woman that I loved, the woman that I intended to marry, who was my everything, looked me dead in my eyes and said, what good, Aaron? I don't remember any good. And when she said that, that absolutely destroyed me, and I knew that there was nothing I could do to change her mind. So I tried a little bit more. She wasn't having it. She had started packing her stuff. So I was like, all right, well, I'm going to leave. I called my boss. I was like, hey, I'm going to take some time off, because I was really destroyed over it. And I went to my parents' house and basically let her do what she was going to do, and, got a hold of a therapist and whatnot, because, it was really destroying me. So, a few days later, she agreed to talk, and, I really pleaded a case and all that. And, by that time, she had talked to everyone in her corner, given her side of the story. And they had all basically solidified to her that, no, he doesn't deserve you. You don't deserve that. You do better than that. I will say that in the entire time we were together, I never called her out of her name. I never raised my hand to her. I raised my voice maybe once or twice to regain control of a argument that had gotten out of control, but I treated her with respect always. And then I continued that even into the breakup, because it was a very drawn out thing. And she did not. The longer it drug out, the meaner she got, essentially. This is not me dogging on her. This is me telling exactly how things are from my side of it. I guarantee if you talk to her, she'd give you a totally different side. Not even 2 weeks after I was really nice and I took a piece of furniture to her storage unit, she shows up with another guy that incidentally works with us too, basically saying he's just a friend. We all know how that one goes, but, I can't prove it. I like to think that she's not that type, but, neither here nor there. And then just, she's like, I still want to be friends. You're a big part of my life. I'll never cut you off. And that's exactly what happened. Just week after week, she cut off a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, until, I was still finding, even after I moved, I think I still found things, because I ended up taking home a box of stuff probably 3 months after I got here to where I am now. I had to go back home for a family thing, and unpacking, I'd found a small box worth of her stuff, and I took it with me and arranged to give it back to her dad. I never threw anything of hers away. I always made sure to give it back. I had asked her not to bring another guy to my house when she was supposed to come get the last tote of stuff, and she fought me on it tooth and nail. Basically said I wasn't taking her feelings into consideration, I wasn't taking her plans into consideration, that I was trying to dictate to her who she could and couldn't bring around. To me, it was this was my house. She had signed out of the lease. So me giving her stuff back was a courtesy. She couldn't not bring a guy to my house to just get her stuff. She ended up sending her dad. Didn't even tell me. She let me think that she was showing up, and then I hear the knock at the door, and it turned out to be her dad. And then after that, she completely blocked me on everything, and then I eventually I was like, you know what, for my own peace of mind, I blocked her back because I had noticed that she had popped up again, and I looked, and she had unblocked me, and, I was like, oh my God, is she, going to say sorry or something? I think it was more so just kind of see what I was doing, because a few days later, I was blocked again. When I was blocked again the second time, I was like, all right, you know what, for my well-being, I'm gonna just block her back on everything. And I don't like blocking people. I feel like that's such a middle school, high school thing. Just be an adult, be a grown-up, just don't talk to that person. Who cares if they can see what you're doing? If they're not reaching out, contacting you, okay. Personally, I don't just block people to block people. You really got to do something for me to block you, because other than that, I'll just ignore you. Her dad's reached out to me a few times. This pretty much covers the whole thing. Like I said, I wasn't going to give a whole long, drawn out sob story, just kind of cover the major pertinence. And because as I make more videos, more things will be talked about, and then as time goes, you'll get the full picture. Her dad has tried to reach out to me. I've lessened the contact just because, I've been healing. It's in August will have been 2 years since she left. It's really been a battle. It's really been a struggle. And honestly, until like the last 3 months or so, that's when I've really started improving on things. It takes time. Mental health definitely suffered in this. I already wasn't in a good place, and then this happened, and then it just completely destroyed it, and I've had to rebuild myself from the ground up. It takes time. If you are going through something right now, and it just seems like there's no end in sight, I understand how it feels, and it's going to take time. It's not an overnight thing. The phrase of, the way to get over somebody is to get under someone else. Don't do that. Don't do that. Someone might take it the wrong way and then get attached to you, and then you're just using them. You're just transferring that damage from yourself onto another person, which is not okay in any way, shape, or form. Take the time to heal yourself and learn yourself, because you're going to have to relearn yourself after being in a relationship. You went from being an individual to being in a relationship where it's two people. You're basically two halves of a whole at that point, and then you're back to being an individual, and you've lost a lot of yourself kind of as an individual, because that person became ingrained in your life and kind of your identity in a way. So take the time, assess your mental health, assess yourself, work on yourself, and get back to a better part of you. Because I will say, with her, she found me in my piece, and then she literally left me in pieces. And I've been putting the pieces back for almost 2 years, and it's a slow process. It really is, but hopefully you'll build yourself back better. And I like to think that I'm building myself back better. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up this video. I'm not going to make these long and drawn out. Try to keep them to about 30 to 35 minutes. That way I don't lose your guys' interest. But a couple of things. Next week, I'm going to start my topics. Each video is going to be a topic. So next week's topic is boundaries. But also, I'd like to give a shout out to my buddy Ryan. He's helping me, kind of edit and learn the whole thing on my videos and whatnot. There'll be links if you need any help with video editing or getting your own channel going. But he also has a really good channel for those 80s, 90s, and early 2000s babies called Sweet Nostalgia. Definitely worth a look. I've been on the channel a few times. Just go over there. He's got some really good stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and end this. Stay strong, my people. Remember, be kind, and what you do next matters. Take care, everyone.